everyone, I'm Todd Wayne. Thank you for tuning in for another episode of Paranomaly Podcast, home for all things paranormal supernatural. A Paranomaly is a weekly podcast focusing on the paranormal, supernatural, and metaphysical. Join us for thought-provoking discussions on paranormal phenomena, conspiracies, and all things unexplained as we talk to researchers and investigators about ghosts and hauntings, UFOs and aliens, urban legends, cryptids, and so much more. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and follow to receive notifications when new content from Paranomaly Podcast is made available. You can also visit us at paranomalypodcast.com for more content and information, including all our social links. Thank you again for watching or listening. So grab yourself a drink and a snack. Turn the lights off on the way back. Find yourself a nice comfy spot and enjoy this episode of Paranomaly. Stay with us, folks. Hey, everyone.
Hi.
So, Jim, thank you very much for being here again. We had a show just a little bit ago, and I thought it went really well. And now we have Deedee here, so we can learn all about dreams and interpretations. And I am very much looking forward to this episode. So, Deedee, please introduce yourself. Tell us a little about yourself and how you got into this.
Okay, well, my name is Deedee Jebrail, and I do dream interpretations. I've been doing it. I started off having weird dreams myself, and so that caused the interest because I'm having weird dreams that I wanted to figure out. And then it's funny because a friend of mine was doing a podcast, I think last week, and he mentioned something that I never realized is that he was talking about the Bible and dream interpretations. And I was, raised Catholic and then Christian. And so there was a lot of stories in the Bible about dream interpretations. And I'm like, you know what? I think that's probably in my child's mind where I was like, wait a minute, I can interpret these dreams and they're very magical. And so that's probably where the interest really started. And then, through the years, I've helped friends. We sit down and we talk about the dreams and I've helped them analyze them. And I've done it for myself and my family. And then it's been a couple of years now. I've gone in like in the last 2 years. But when I started Haunted Hour podcast, it was just an online chat at first. And I was doing dream interpretations and people were like, oh, you should really do this for, others, like as a career. And I'm like, no, I just like doing it just to do it for fun. And about 2 years ago, I just felt like, you know what, I really can help people. And why not, put myself out there? So in the last 2 years, I got my website and started doing dream interpretations, just for strangers. So.
Now, when you interpret a dream, is there always more than one answer? Or I would want to say like, how a tarot card, the interpretation can mean different things.
Certainly with symbols. Yeah. Symbols are based on you. So like an elephant, say you dream about elephants, that could mean something completely different for each one of us. It also depends on, what about the elephant, what's going on with the elephant. So it's really complicated. You can't just look at a dream dictionary and say an elephant means this, and then that's what the dream's about. You've got to dig into every symbol in the dream, your emotions. There's so much to it that will tell you what that, and I always say there's a key symbol, a theme for the dream. That's your main symbol. And then you break it down from there and it all together becomes your dream story.
And it seems like you would have to have discussions with the dreamer, to sort of get a sense of how they interpret the symbols and what is their perception and sort of learn from them, or ask them, what do you feel when you see this image? That would be relevant, right?
Yeah. What I do is sometimes I just get people send them in and I try to have a discussion with them, but it's always better when it's face to face like this. But I'll always pick up on what I think is probably the main symbol and I'll ask them, what does it mean to you? And then that'll kind of give you what is the dream about? And then you look at the other symbols. And basically when you're giving someone an interpretation, it should be that you're leading them to understand and basically interpret their own dream. Because what it is you need somebody to kind of like you get caught up like in the emotions of your dream, and you're not seeing like outside of it. So you have a person who will come in and point out things, and you could do it with friends, you know. It's just somebody, it's the discussion, which is why I always have a problem with the AI dream interpreters, because there are some out there, and I tested it on one of my podcasts just to see like how would the AI interpret my dream versus how I interpret it. And two of them were the same, but one was completely different. But oddly enough, like Todd said, they both kind of fit. So, you know, but you don't have that interaction, because the AI is not going to, at least at this point, doesn't ask you for any more details. And I always feel like there's always more details I need to collect. Also, people tend to tell you a dream and they think they've told you the dream in the entirety. But after discussing it for a while and asking a few questions, they'll be like, oh, yeah, I do remember this or that. And so there's more to the dream than they even remembered at first. And it will help you recall the dream, because sometimes there could be like you might get the theme of the dream, but you're not getting the solution. Because a lot of times I believe that not only are you getting like, what is it about, but there's a bit of a solution for you too, like how to work on whatever is going on. I hope that answered that.
Yeah, that just made me think of something interesting. I mean, isn't it always the case that we remember so little of the dream? You know, what we take back from the dream as far as, you know, memory recall is so infinitesimally small compared to what we actually dreamt, that what's the, you know, sort of implications of that being, you know, I always got the sense that, you know, the parts that you did remember were somehow more important, you know, or the message was concentrated there, or
yeah, well, a lot of times if you look at your dreams and they can like change, you could be like in one spot, one thing's going on that it's completely different and it feels like it's the same dream. It's not a new dream. But if you look up the different meanings, it's telling you that it's repeating. It's giving you the same dream over and over again with different little scenarios to kind of make it click for you. And so I think though with the recall, and I always struggle with that too. I mean, I recall a lot, but then I'll run into people who can write a novel. Pages of, they remember their dreams so well. And it's like, this is incredible. It's like,
I know someone that just has extremely unusual dream recall. I mean, she probably remembers 100 times more than I do, you know, of dreams, like just sequentially the whole way through every detail. That's really interesting. How rare is that, or how common is that?
I have only run across one person who's like you just described, and a few others that get a lot of details. But those people tend to be people who are very interested in dreams and keep journals and discuss their dreams and think about their dreams. And so the more you're interested in it, the more you work with it, the more you're going to recall. I mean, even though I always recalled things, now that I'm so like deep into it, I remember the numbers that I'm given. I remember like I got a name. I remember all kinds of things that before I'd be like, oh, I remember someone talked to me, but I don't remember what they said. Now I'm remembering what they said. So it's a skill you have to develop.
Yeah, I think that is true. Yeah. Let's go back to the thing about the numbers, because this brings up an interesting facet to me. Reading text in dreams or numbers. It always seems to me, and I guess this is kind of generally the case with most dreamers, and particularly lucid dreamers have said this, that, you know, if you stare at any text, you know, in a dream, you know, whether it be a number, it morphs. It's constantly in flux, you know. Have you noticed this yourself, or what's your take on that phenomenon, and what's going on there?
Well, that's kind of like dreams. They do that. It is everything, like, you know, you could be driving on a road and next thing you know, you're standing in a shopping mall and you don't remember going from, you know, getting out of your car and walking into the mall. And it's almost like, it reminds me of like when you're editing videos and you like cut and then you make something smooth to make a transition. I feel like our minds do that as well through all parts of our dreams. For me, I'm actually given the numbers like verbally. They're spoken to me. So it's a little bit different. I've seen like people writing on the walls and stuff like that, but I have yet to remember that kind of stuff. So I'm still in the process of growing that kind of muscle myself, even though I'm so into it. But I was really happy that I get the numbers, and I have an angel number book. And I mean, for numbers, you have to think, how does a number, again, how does it relate to you? Is it, an old apartment that you lived in? Does it have somebody's birth date? Is it, an address? I had somebody write one time, and they had, it sounded like an address. And I kept telling them, did you look this up? Because it sounds like an address. And they're like, yeah, but it's really far. So I didn't, check it out. I was like, well, did you look like on Google Maps or anything to see anything about this house? Like I'd be mailing them a letter, but, for numbers, you could kind of like do numerology. That's what I do. I look at an angel number book to see, does it make sense to the dream that I'm having? And does it make sense to anything that's going on in my life? So it's kind of like, it's a little bit detective work. You kind of have to see how, because you're coming from your mind, right? So what is it that your mind is trying to tell you? I mean, I know people believe that it could be paranormal and coming from spirit guides and stuff like that. But I believe most of the time it's us working with ourselves.
Yeah, but not all the time. And you've encountered dreams that suggest otherwise. I've certainly had dreams where there was paranormal activity that accompanied them afterward. I had a dream that, to me, was what I consider a manipulated dream. It's this, you might interpret this entirely differently. I just had this recurring dream all the time about being in a house, and the lights go out, and I go to turn them back on, and none of them work, and I'm stuck in the darkness. And one time I had a really unusual one where, in addition to that feature, there was all kinds of sort of paranormal things that happened within the dream, like things that were moved around. The TV set came on in the dream. Other things happened, but peculiarly, when I awoke, my real TV was turned on, blaring, on a station that, way high up in these music stations where I never, travel, on these stations. And it was, and there's no other explanation. I did not turn it on. No one in the house turned it on. And it was on my birthday also, that this happened. And to me, I feel like there had to be another mind there or something, that orchestrated that, and additionally turned on my own TV.
So then, because I agree with you on that, like if you're having a dream that you feel is paranormal, and then there's something in your physical world that's going on too, then that sounds paranormal. So then I would ask, what was going on during that time? Was there other paranormal activity besides that? Was there something special? You said it was your birthday. Was there somebody that you feel like was trying to contact you?
I don't know. It was a frightening dream. It was strange. There was just lots of things, like amiss in my house. The oven was pulled away from the wall. There was just all sorts of things that weren't right, kind of things that I noticed. And it almost, there was almost, it felt like a sort of trickster element to it too. Like I would try to get light somehow. Like I remember finding candles and lighting the candles, and they like sparked, and they were like fake. They wouldn't work. And I almost felt like finding the candles or the placement of the candles was almost a setup. It felt like in order to sort of lead to that experience. I don't know. I mean, the only special thing about it was, it was my birthday. And, there's no other indications from it as to, someone that might have been trying to contact me, that I know or anything like that. But I don't know. Yeah.
Well, if you look at it from a dream interpretation point of view, a couple of keywords, as you're talking, you say you felt stuck, right? So you couldn't get the lights to turn on. So you were in the home, which stereotypically they say dreaming of a home is you are the house. So it's dark, you're stuck. And then you said something else. I already forgot what you said. there was a trickster element, and there was something that you said before that I can't remember. So if
The oven
you
was
go
pulled
back,
away from the wall. There was also an overly large trash bag in the middle of the kitchen that gave me this ominous feeling, like I did not even want to look in that.
yeah, it
Also the
was
TV.
everything that you needed to get rid of. It's yeah, I kind of see the theme in
Yeah.
that dream.
Mhm.
You're stuck, you need to purge something or throw something out. Like there's the symbolism of, so then you have
Right.
to look at that point of,
Mhm.
during that time where you like stuck in a job or relationship or not knowing what to do, like does that kind of fit during that time?
Mm. Wow, yeah, I mean, that just totally, makes me think now. Honestly, I don't even remember now what was going on. I don't remember the context other than it being my birthday and just a sort of ordinary, birthday. I don't know. That's a good question, though. That makes me think. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
You gotta look at, I always look at both sides, is it, if it was paranormal, what would it mean? If it was a dream interpretation, what would it mean? And you kind of, and also it's good to know what was going on. It
Mm.
might come to you probably at 3 o'clock in the morning. You'll remember
Mhm,
what,
mhm. Yeah,
might have been
right.
going on during that time.
Now,
Yeah.
Denise had a question. It's not a question, but she said she had a theory that paranormal influence occurs outside of the REM sleep stage. Could you tell me a little
I
bit
like
about
that. Well, we dream most of our dreams are in REM sleep. You can dream outside of REM sleep. So that is possible.
Yeah.
But there's like this, and she was in a dream experiment that I did, and it's a strange thing where, I mean, we had a collective group of people all try to dream what I had set up a doll I have anime, and I put objects around her, and I had everybody set the intention that night, look at her picture and try to connect with the doll because she was sitting in my room, and try to see what they would dream. And everybody was going to send in the dream. And a lot of people, it was 12 people who did the experiment, 11 people all connected. 2 seemed to be able to describe my room, which I've moved my setup, so it was different than this. And it was really strange how they described. They've never been to my house. They're on one's in a different country, and the other one's on the East Coast. Never seen the inside of my house except for this room. And then I had, everybody was saying that they had the color green, a green flash, the green color. Like Danny, who does the awakening with me, she's a tarot reader, and she thought that she was holding a thank you card, but she was actually holding a Zener card with a star on it, which is like a, good job, thank you, So there was a lot of strange things where they were able to connect. And I do wonder, I like what she said, that maybe that's the time, like REM sleep's when our mind's working, and then outside of the REM sleep is maybe that time where maybe we connect. I don't know. I
now?
love that.
Do you think that
Hmm.
because they could kind of vision what your space looked like, do you think that could have been like an out of body type of experience?
For 2 of them, I think it was. They literally, Rob was one of them. He described walking through, he said, I was walking through what I thought was a kitchen, but then it seemed like a hallway, which perfectly describes my kitchen because you have to pass through my kitchen to get to this office because this was added on. And so, and then he said he turned, and then he saw the doll, and I forget what else he described, but and then he left quickly, and he thought he saw like a shadow person. And the funny thing is, during the night, I had like 4 different experiences. I heard a woman yell, "Get out." I heard like a rustling sound, and then I had 2 strange dreams. One I can't remember anymore, but the last one was that a man was saying to me, "I'm afraid I can't get back." And I said, "That's okay, just hang a sheet over the door." And I always wondered if he was the one that was talking, because when people in dreams, they talk kind of slow and it's kind of like floaty kind of a feeling. That's how the talking was. But him and another guy, the other guy said that he saw anime sitting. There was 2 shelves, which actually was 2 chairs. And he said he saw pictures hanging above her. And what it is it's like my licenses and stuff. So he said he couldn't make out the photos, but they were picture frames. And it's because it's not photos, it's licenses and stuff. So, I mean, that was 2 people that did that. Everybody else seemed to connect psychically. And the 2 guys, they connected like almost like an astral projection, out of body kind of way.
Wow, that's interesting.
It was really interesting.
Now, Denise, she had put on there that twilight sleep, when you're completely relaxed, you're sleeping, but aware of your surroundings,
Yeah.
perfect for the paranormal to enter.
Yeah. Well, and there's two things, because it could be that also when you're in that twilight period where you're hypnagogic, I can't say it right, that's why I like to say twilight. You can start to REM sleep, especially when you're waking up, and like you could see a hallucination, like a shadow figure or something, and that's actually a science-based thing that happens to a lot of people. And you're actually dreaming and projecting the dream out into the room. You're seeing it like in your room, but it's actually still a dream. Now, how you decide whether or not it really is paranormal and when it's just you projecting, I guess you would go by whether or not you're having other activity, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. That's very interesting. Now, do you think that these dream states could have a connection with extraterrestrials, like
Well,
how an abductee or contactee, channeler, what have you? Do you think this could be in that as well?
I think it's possible, especially like just getting information. Like maybe not necessarily being abducted, I'm not sure, but just getting information. Like they're supposed to be able to speak with us telepathically, right? So they're stepping in. And I mean, you have dreams and you talk to people. How many times do you not actually see what they even look like? But you're having a conversation with somebody and they seem familiar, but if you were to describe them, you can't, right? So, and you're getting good information. Like how do we get these brilliant ideas? Is it just us, our subconscious, collected information and shares it with us? Or is there something, some people call it a spirit guide. Somebody say it's their ancestors, could be, extraterrestrials, universe, or is it just us because we've collected all this information in our subconscious and the subconscious figures it out and helps us? I don't know.
And what about Denise had put here that she agreed there's quite a few scientific journals written about sleep paralysis and such. So can sleep paralysis, if you're in that conscious state where you cannot move, you're can that influence it?
Yeah. Danny and I just did a whole show about that yesterday. Yeah. Sleep paralysis, the common things are people, the one that stood out to me the most that I thank God haven't had is bugs crawling on you or like on the walls or your furniture, alien abductions, out of body experience, shadow figures, feeling like there's an intruder in the room or seeing an intruder in your room. That's all related to sleep paralysis. And that's what I'm saying, that you are still in REM sleep, aware and seeing your dream character out there in the room. And so I did a whole thing to tell you how to come out of sleep paralysis. There's a couple of tips. One is to just to try to wiggle a toe or just to sit there and be aware. This is sleep paralysis. I'm okay. And it'll start to help you bring out, because sleep paralysis can last a couple seconds or it could last a couple of minutes, which a couple of minutes would be horrendous. If you're seeing demons. I had it myself when I was 18. I had something come out of the air and land on top of me and try to steal my breath. And for years, I thought I was attacked by a demon. Come to find out later on, it was just, more than likely just sleep paralysis. I guess I can't say for sure either way, right? Because
my own experience with sleep paralysis, it definitely felt like there was something like, is this generally the case with sleep paralysis? It felt like there was a presence. It felt like there was something there that I was working against that was powerful and was just keeping me locked there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think that's a distortion, that perception of that? Or do you think that, are you open-minded to the possibility that there is, something involved there, another intelligence or something that's trying to interfere with you and something?
Yeah, I think it could go either way. I'm on the fence with it. I'm just saying that science says that's what it is. But everything that was with sleep paralysis was also paranormal experiences. So it depends on, it's one of those, who do you ask? Who, How do you feel? And that's why I go back to the same thing. You know, if you feel like you've been abducted by an alien, do you have like other memories of what happened during that time? Or, you know, like you have to kind of like dig into it deeper, I guess. For me,
Right.
I had that experience the one time, and
An
I've had more
abduction,
mild.
an
Huh?
abduction experience.
No, actually, but
No.
for alien abduction, I did have, it's a couple of years now, but I kept waking up with a bright light in my eyes. And so it felt like somebody had a flashlight right up to my closed eye, and I would open my eyes and there'd be nothing and dark, silent.
Oh, I've experienced that myself. Yeah.
Have you? Okay.
Yes, and actually sort of semi often, I will sometimes see lights in the blacks of my eyelids, normally in the hypnagogic state, you know, and I'll see sometimes strange things, you know, weird,
Yeah.
complex things that happen. And then other times, yeah, just kind of like a spotlight. Sometimes it flashes, and I'm still half awake, you know, and I'm
Yeah.
seeing this stuff. And it always kind of feels like something's signaling me, you know, like something's
Hmm.
trying to get my attention.
Huh.
It's always
I
unclear.
originally thought that it was like a spirit that was, you know, contacting me, like an angel or something. And then I
Mm.
listened to another podcast, and they were talking about the bright lights, and they were saying that it was extraterrestrial. But I went to the eye doctor because it happened in a week. It happened 3 times in 1 week. Never before, never again that I recall. I was in the middle of the night. I was asleep. I wasn't like just falling asleep, or I mean, I guess I
Mm.
was just waking up. But I went to the eye doctor, and he couldn't find anything wrong with my eyes. It's been a few years, so I think I'm okay. But I always just decided that if it was extraterrestrials, they checked me out and they were like, nah, they didn't want me. I
Yeah,
don't know.
to me, I don't think it's what you're describing completely conforms to that. Normally, the abductee is awake, wakes up, and a powerful light fills the room. You know, they're not seeing
Yeah.
it while they're sleeping. They're seeing it in the room, the entire room light up with an unusually power, not just a bright light, but a light that's so bright that, you know, it blinds you.
Right.
Um, but yeah, difficult to say. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Mhm. Yeah.
So, Deedee, let me ask you this question. Actually, let me tell you this little bit of a story. I'm not going to take up a ton of time, but when I was younger, uh, I had this experience where I was sleeping, and something, every time it said my name, I would like tense up, extremely tense up. But it was only when it said my name, like it was trying to make me listen. And that was the way to do it. You know, it would say whatever it was saying. I don't remember now. And what had happened was every time, like I said, it would be telling me this stuff. And when it would say Todd, I would just tense up completely. I couldn't move, anything like that. Would that be a sleep paralysis?
Um, well, I mean, if it was very mild. Usually sleep paralysis is like you're fully, you feel like you're awake, your conscious is awake, but you cannot move your body at all. And you usually either at least feel pinned down. A lot of people feel like somebody's sitting on their chest. Um, it's That's almost sounds like, I don't know what that sounds like. I mean, it's kind of like that, but it sounds like you were having a dream where somebody was talking to you, and then they said your name because you weren't paying attention.
You know,
I
I
don't
I
know.
kinda this is gonna sound crazy, but I had told Jim this, that it was almost like God, and every time he said my name, I would tense up, like I couldn't move. It was almost like I was being
Oh,
scolded or something. And then Jim and I was talking, and it started to make a little bit more sense that possibly it was something to do with extraterrestrial, my
oh.
lab type of thing.
Oh, do you feel like you were someplace else besides your bed? Like, were you someplace else?
And that's what I don't know, because every time it was said my name, it was like a flash of white light, and
Huh.
I just froze up, and I could not move. It was very scary.
Huh.
Yeah, that's
That is scary.
atypical. I don't know what to make of it exactly either. Normally, telepathy is a gentler experience, and you don't normally hear people who have telepathic experiences having those kinds of visceral physical reactions to them. So, yeah, that's very atypical to me.
Yeah.
I don't know what that would be.
I don't know
for
either.
sure.
And
Yeah,
even as a dream, you almost like you need a little more information. I mean, so basically, to me, the only thing that you've said is that you weren't paying attention to somebody and they were scolding you. So you felt, and that could be like, was that just like something that was coming from school or something from home that just like translated its way that way? Or was it more, was it something outside of you? I don't know.
Yeah, it was very interesting. I was just curious if maybe you had a take on that because I don't remember what it was saying or if it was because I wasn't paying attention, but it was definitely telling me something. And every time it stopped telling me something, it would say my name and I would just completely freeze up and not be able to move. So I was trying to pick your brain a little, see if anybody that you've ever talked to had some kind of thing like that.
No, not as of yet. But I mean, like I said, I don't know. Was it a dream or was it an experience? I'm not sure.
I don't know neither. I mean, it could have been something trying to definitely.
Well, could it have been your subconscious talking to you, Because a lot of us have dream characters. So I have a repetitive dream character, and then there's one that comes in and is always giving me like all the knowledge, the wise information. So that I could say that could be my spirit guide or my ancestor, or maybe, an extraterrestrial or something that God that's giving me this information. But a lot of people will, if you really sit down and think about the different times you've talked to these different people in your dreams, there usually is like the same, like it's the same man or the same woman that's coming to you. So that could have been maybe you have that still, but it's changed, it transitions. So like when you're a child, the type of dreams you have usually like mature just like you do and add more information and it kind of evolves. So you may be having the same type of dream, but it's changed now that you're older. And even if it was something outside of you that was contacting you, as you grow older, it would, talk to you in a different way than it talked to you as a child, So you have to kind of look at the dreams you're having now and see if you can find anything that kind of goes with the dream that you had then.
Now, what about reoccurring dreams? I also remember vividly that I had reoccurring dreams when I was young, and then they kind of went away. And then years later, they come back, but exactly the same dreams as I remember. What kind of dream state would that be?
Okay, so when you have reoccurring dreams like that, when the first time you had that dream, whatever was going on in your life, the emotions that were ruling your time, say stress, let's just use stress as an example. When you were a child and you had this first dream, it was a very stressful, maybe you guys were moving or something like that, and it caused a lot of uncertainty and stress. Anytime as an adult you've reached that level of feeling that way, that stressed to that degree, your reoccurring dream will come back to tell you we have reached this level of stress or fear or whatever it is that it's trying to indicate to you. So when you have the reoccurring dream, you have to first go back and figure out what was the driving force then for your emotions and how does it go with now. So we've had people like there was somebody that their parents had gotten divorced, and that was the first time they started having the reoccurring dream. As an adult, he was breaking up with a girlfriend and he started having that reoccurring dream. So that's why it was the same emotions, the same, intensity. And so that's how his mind was dealing with it. It was trying to sort through those emotions by showing the same dream. And those are really great because it could tell you, okay, I've reached my level here. I need to really figure out how to solve, my current waking life.
Yeah. And it kind of like people say that you can't remember like when you're really young, but I know when I was about 4, I'm going to say 4 at least. we lived in Florida, and we lived right next to my Uncle Ray, and he had a swimming pool. And I remember I had these little yellow, I don't know, you blow them up, you put them on your arm so you can get, yes. So I remember those, but I didn't put them on. And I was in the deep end of the pool, and I climbed down the ladder, and for whatever reason, let go.
Oh,
But I was still breathing. It's like I was breathing air. And when I come out of that, I went back over to the rails, the steps, and I got more breath, and I did it again. So this wasn't a dream. This actually, I believe, with the bottom of my heart, that this was a true experience. But then it started with...
Wasn't there also figures, just to pause real quick, didn't you say that there was also two figures that were dressed in dark suits or something that were standing? Wasn't that part of it too? Didn't you say something about figures standing there?
There was, if you look from underwater, you could see these figures. So I'm not sure what them figures were. But a few years after that, I started having these dreams about UFO alien stuff. There was UFOs above. They were flying around. Long story short, every time that dream ended, I was in a garage, and I am watching this bright light, almost like some kind of a scope type of thing, and it's scanning everything. And when I woke up, that's the time I woke up. It was always in that garage, like I'm trying to hide from this thing. And it happened, I bet you 25 times that I had that dream. And then it went away for the longest time, and then it come back. I was probably a teenager when that happened. So I'm just curious on, is there a connection? I mean, I don't know. I have no idea. I'm still lost to this day on all of this.
Do you wake up in your bed, or because I always hear people like they don't necessarily wake up in their bed, but they wake up someplace else, like in their house.
I've woke up on the floor, start off in the bed, woke up on the floor, but that is it. And these, like I said, it was the same dream over and over and over again, ending always the same way, with a big bluish white light, almost like this thing scanning. And I don't know if maybe why it stops is maybe I was, and this might sound crazy, but maybe I was abducted. And that's why it always ends right there with all that blue white light.
Oh,
I had no idea.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, if
did it seem
the two black figures, that sounds like Men in Black, or was it, do you feel like it was entities that were stopping? It's like, so then maybe
that was
if we want to
before.
go on that, you're 4 years old, you wander out to the pool and you're going to drown, but they save you, for whatever reason. And so that made you then connected to them forever. And that's why they come in and visit you. And that's how because like, I guess it's supposed to be that, they take your memory away. So you would only have like little bits and pieces, I guess, of experience. But there's people who get hypnotized to relive their abduction experiences. Have you ever thought about getting hypnotized?
Well, I did. And then I get scared. So, because I don't know, first someone's messing with you by giving you the hypnosis. So I get really nervous with that kind of stuff.
Oh, well, I wonder though, if you set an intention then when you go to sleep, like try it for a week. Each night, set the intention, write it out that you want to understand what that dream meant. You want more details to that experience, and put that out there verbally, put it out there in writing, set the whole, like, pace that try to sleep like alone and don't drink and do the whole thing, and see if you can get some information, because I fully believe that you can go back and revisit old dreams. I did a dream experiment and that worked for some people. And certainly setting an intention, you'll get all kinds of information. So you don't have to just be like, this is what happened in its past. You can bring it back. And even if, say, it was extraterrestrials, if there is that connection and you're trying to make contact again, I would think they'd be like, oh, he's ready, to interact deeper or more,
Oh, that's interesting. And that makes good sense to me, that when I was that young, and I shouldn't even be able to remember that, but I was that young, as Jim said, I told him about these couple of figures, but I could not see them perfectly because I'm looking through the water.
Right.
And then on down the line, I started having those reoccurring dreams, and they would end at that point where I was in the garage and the scanning of that light was going through. And then that's all I remember. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I hope you try that and let me know what happens. I'm really interested to see what you might get from that.
Yes, I definitely want to try to figure it out. I was telling Jim the same thing. I would love to, and I should write it all down in sequence of how everything was, and see if I could pull more information up.
You will be able to. You got to visualize it, almost like meditation. Write out everything you remember, then in your mind, walk back through that dream and kind of like, it's like a form of meditation. Try to look around. What else do you notice? What was in the garage? What about that light do you remember? Like focus on each bit that you do remember, and then write down anything else you get. Even if you think, like, if you're like, well, I feel like maybe there was, this also in the garage, just write it down and reread it, and put that it's, you think, and it'll start to like make your mind work. Because the more you think about it, the more you focus on something, the more you learn about it, the more information you get, the more you remember. So I think you could really work with that.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And Ronnie, a couple of times it did happen at my mother's, but it was throughout these, I don't know. I really don't know. And I think that perhaps, maybe, because I went through all this, is why my anxiety and depression is really bad a lot of the times, because of, maybe I keep hashing it up. Now, I was in the Johnstown, Pennsylvania, 1977 flood. But I mean, as traumatic as that was, I was young, and I can only remember just bits and pieces. This stuff here is like, it's vivid. So I'm not quite sure.
That's what I was just going to ask.
Yeah.
That's what I was just going to ask Deedee about. What do you make of when a dreamer reports a dream and they describe it as unusually vivid and lifelike and visceral? Like, there's some people that will have dreams, namely, abductees, but not just abductees, who report dreams and they say that, this was distinctly different than my normal dream. It felt like it was a real experience, like it just seemed so much more lifelike. What's your interpretation of dreams like that?
Well, I understand what you mean, because there's just like your basic kind of scattered dreams, and then there's dreams where you really feel like you were there. And only thing I can say about that is that those are the ones that you really want to work with, you really want to pay attention to. I love looking for synchronicities, like in your waking life. I feel like if a spirit is trying to contact us, or an alien, or even like a spirit guide, they're going to leave you more than just that, you know? So I feel like those are the dreams that you could focus on because you know that it was the different, you know. A lot of people who see the future, it's one of those kind of dreams where they just know they wake up and they're like, this isn't a dream symbol. This is something that's going to happen. It felt different, you know? So you always should pay attention to those and certainly journal those, you know, just for your own reference, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense for sure.
But are they always dreams? You know, I don't know how familiar you are with abductees and how early on they generally feel that their abduction experiences are dreams because they recall it
Right.
as being vague and dreamlike until they later, you know, maybe get a regression down the road or, you know, more evidence comes to light, like the Linda Napolitano case, where actually police officers on the ground saw her being taken out her window, floated out her window into a craft. And then they, you know, connect with the possible reality that, you know, that wasn't a dream. It felt like a dream to them.
Right.
They had sort of recorded it as being a dream. But then in some cases, it seems like it wasn't actually a dream, you know.
Yeah. Well,
I
that's
mean,
what makes it paranormal, right? I mean, it's like
yeah,
you can't explain it, and it doesn't seem like they were having a dream, that they were really having this experience. And that's kind of like what we're all like trying to figure out. Like when you don't have something that's normal or explainable, certainly floating out a window isn't, right? Then you have to say, well, it doesn't seem like it was a dream. And then like, what do you do with that information when you find out, you know, you are being abducted? I
right.
don't
And
know.
just, you know, the implications of that, you know, that
Yeah.
some things that seem like dreams, you know, were not in fact dreams potentially, you know. It
Oh,
doesn't that kind of
sure.
open up a whole new world as to,
Yeah.
you know, dreams that we're having or sometimes having, you know, and especially
Yeah.
ones that, you know, involve abduction features and characteristics. Mhm.
Yeah, because most people like I cannot recall ever having a dream being abducted. Certainly it wasn't like a
Mhm.
focal point. I don't think I've had anyone send me an interpretation request that sound so it's not like everybody's having those kinds of dreams.
Mhm.
So, and I would love to do a poll to find out of the general public how many people do have those kind of dreams. Like that would be a good study to find out how many people are actually having these dreams and what else is going on in their life, you know?
Right, right, yeah.
Like I love the whole Men in Black scenario. We interviewed a guy, I can't think of his name, Justin Bamforth. I think you probably know who that is.
I don't, yeah.
He keeps a doc. He keeps all the Men in Black kind of things in like a database. And
Oh,
so
okay.
he had said, we interviewed him and he said, usually when people interview him, they end up having a Men in Black experience. And so we
Yeah.
were like, okay, you know, we'll see what happens. And so I was at the post office one day and this lady was behind me and I was wearing like a jeans and a t-shirt and sneakers. So I wasn't wearing a jacket or anything. It was like, I don't know, 69 degrees. So I didn't need a jacket. It was supposed to be snowing the next day, which was unreasonable because I live in
Mm,
California. And so this lady from behind me says, "Aren't you cold?" And I turned around to see if she's talking to me. And it was this little old lady. She had a face mask that basically covered her whole face. She was wearing glasses, so you really couldn't see her eyes. She had a German accent. She was really tiny. And even though she was speaking through a face mask, she was talking like she didn't have a mask on. Like it was very clear and very audible, which was strange also. And she said, I said, I'm not cold, but I heard it's going to snow tomorrow. And she said, that's because the dark clouds are lower. And what'd she say? I have it written down on my blog. And then she said, we're just one of the orbs out there. And I was like, it was the weirdest conversation. I was like, what the hell does that all mean? I did a whole blog post about it and we talked about it on the show. I don't know. That is really strange. I've been on this
mm,
planet for
mm.
54 years, and that was a really weird experience. And so I do believe that there is something to all of it. I don't spend a lot of time researching it, so I don't really know, but I myself have had a strange experience, you know, that's kind of like that. So I don't know.
That's very weird. When you say she had a face mask, do you mean like a winter mask that covers the whole face?
No, I mean like the COVID kind of mask where the protect the nose. So I couldn't see her face. Basically, her face was covered with the mask and then her glasses. So I couldn't really make out what she looked like, but she had a German accent. It was just weird.
Strange. That's very weird. And this was immediately subsequent to the interview.
It was about a week later, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Because I wrote him. I was like, oh my God, this is it. And I wrote him and I told him, everything that was said. And he said he hadn't gotten anything quite like that, but it did fit into the category.
Yeah, that's kind of an atypical, if that was a Men in Black experience, that would be an atypical one. An old lady with a German accent is not common, with those things. But who knows? That does sound like there was something to that.
So, Deedee, when you interpret dreams for people, what is like the ratio between bad dreams and good dreams? Is there a huge ratio difference? Do you see more dark and deep dreams or good dreams?
Most of the people that send me dreams, it's because they're bad dreams and they want to figure it out or they want it to go away. Within my friends, a lot of times they'll just share like fun, weird dreams, but generally a lot of them are kind of dark. They're scary and they want to figure out what it means because it's really disturbing. So, but as far as like the ratio, I think that the nightmares are the ones, unfortunately, we like always remember the negative over the positive, right? And so like you could have all these great dreams and you're like, oh yeah, those were great, but let me tell you about this nightmare I had, So I think we're kind of focused that way just naturally as humans. But for me, that's pretty much what I get exposed to is the nightmares.
And we all kind of go, no matter what, we all kind of go right to the deep end, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We are definitely programmed that way. Anytime something happens, it's like, oh, this is definitely paranormal or something,
Yeah.
Now, let's say someone is having a dream about, we got a question here, and then I'll come back to it.
Oh, hi, Sarah.
Oh, that's Sarah. It wasn't a question. Hi, Sarah. I forgot what I was going to say. I was like, let me answer this question and we'll get somebody here to do it. Let's say someone dreams something about water, a lake or something. Does that mean anything that would be dark and mysterious, or could it just mean anything general? Maybe that's where you would need to definitely talk to somebody, correct?
Yeah. Well, look at it. Yeah, water is usually emotions. It's supposed that's kind of like everybody goes to emotions, and so if the water's still, then it's whatever the situation is supposed to be calm. If the water's stormy, then you're upset. I myself have had that. A lot of times I've had where the water, I'm driving in my car and the water like is drowning me and stuff. I've had the drowning dreams, and it's stress. Something in your life is too much. It's too overwhelming. But then if you dream, like say it was a certain lake, and it's a lake that you used to go to and say, go fishing with your dad or something, then it may be not emotions. It may be more about like something more in that dream. That lake represents like family or fishing or your dad or something you thought about during that time. So I think like with any symbol, you have to say, what does it mean to me? But overall, water would be emotions.
Now, what about that dream? And I'm sure you've heard this many times. What about the one where you're falling and they say if you hit the ground you die? I have no idea. I don't mess with dream. I love the dream stuff, but I know nothing about it. Tell us a little bit about that. I'm sure you've heard about that.
Well, I mean, the reality of it is if you fall in your dream and you die, then you can't report back to us that it happened. You know what I mean? So as far as I know, I've had falling dreams. Again, that's like either like freeing yourself of something, letting loose. It could be, it depends on where you're falling from. You could be trying to escape something. But I've had that where I'm falling and it jolts me out of the sleep. And like Deannie was saying last night that she felt like that was like when you are out of body and you're being like dropped back into your body and then waking up. I don't know. I've had that, but that's kind of a natural phenomenon too, where it's just you're just being jolted awake quickly, and it gives you the sensation of falling because you're coming back into your body, so to speak. You know.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I didn't think about the context of why you were falling. I was just thinking, if you fall and you hit the ground, you don't wake up. And I feel that probably everybody watching this had to have had some kind of dream like this at one time or another in their life, where they were falling, be it from, I don't know, a skyscraper to a tree. So yeah, it was very interesting.
Those kinds of
very common dream symbol.
Those kinds of experiences in dreams where you're falling, always evoke the most visceral sensation by far of any circumstance in a dream. Like the gut feeling is so palpable and strong that it's almost like nothing else compares to it as far as sensation, experienced.
I agree.
I always find that kind of peculiar and interesting.
Yeah. It's almost like, as a dream interpreter, like those kind of things I love because it fascinates me. But that, I agree, that's one of those things where it's like, it's very like alarming, but you feel the motion. It's strange, but in theory, you're not actually moving at all.
Right. On that note, I've gotten the sense that just your capacity for sensation in the dream world seems almost expanded beyond, what you can normally experience, like in the waking world. Like I've experienced so many like extremities of sensation, like in different ways, like there was one dream where it's a short one. I'll just describe it. So I was in my kitchen in my old house where I used to live. There was something going on in the sky, like almost like storm activity, but different. There was like an unusual sort of electrical activity, happening. Gave me this ominous feeling. I go to look out the other window. I peer through the blinds, and then I see this flash, and a sound occurs, which was the most thunderous, loudest blast of sound that I've ever heard in my entire life. Like, it just blew me away. Like, I literally fell in the dream and was just completely dazed. And it just feels to me like that was like way, way, way louder than anything I've ever heard in my entire life. Like, it just felt like the immensity was just like indescribable. What do you think about experiences like this, or just experience in dream in general in this sense, in terms of this seeming capacity to experience things beyond what we're normally capable of in the waking world?
Yeah. Well, I mean, in dreams, anything can happen. Anything goes. We can experience anything. We're not inhibited. We're kind of like free. I mean, I love dreaming because of that. Like, we can do anything. And that's why a lot of people like to lucid dream. And I wish I could, but for whatever reason, I'm not able to lucid dream. But it's like that whole dream world and the experiences that you're having. I think it's just because we're not limited by our physical body. It's almost like we're in our spirit self, or our consciousness, our subconscious, whatever you want to call it, but we're not limited by our own bodies, even though we're technically in our body. But in our mind, we're free. We can do anything.
Right. Yeah, I see. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Now, Deedee, when I know Jim had just said this, I have experienced it. So have you. That stage of when you jerk yourself you would jerk yourself awake, I believe. What is that exactly? Like, what causes that? Is that like in a state of going between one phase of a dream to like REM state, or what what causes that jerking?
I'm not actually sure what causes the jerking, but you go through the different cycles of sleep over and over through the night. First, your like body's trying to work on itself, and then you're working on your mind and your emotions and the healing, and it goes through over and over again, which is why they say you need to get 8 hours of sleep or 7 to 8 hours, depending on who you are, because if you don't go through each one of those cycles properly, and it goes faster and faster as you go through, like the hours go by, you don't get like all the benefits you need while you're sleeping. Like sleeping is they don't really know why, but they know that it's where we heal. It's where we, produce cells, and everything that's going on that we need happens. That's a way that our body like takes care of itself. So, but I don't actually know what the terminology is for that. And I feel like it's in my, definitions. I put in all these definitions. I'm going to look right now while you guys are, I feel like I have that in here. I have a whole thing like every time I run across a definition, I will put it in here. It's on my blog. I don't know.
And yeah, I was just curious because I've experienced it. I know we all have in here. It's just very, very weird. And that sensation, how Jim was saying, it's intense. It's just like even when you're falling asleep, and I think that could possibly be to you falling asleep and you go into that real deep sleep, but you jerk, your body jerks. It's the weirdest thing.
Sometimes you wake back up. Yeah. I think it's just your nervous system trying to decide if it's sleeping or not. But I forgot what I was going to say about that. Oh, because it wasn't meant to be. I don't know what I was going to say.
Yeah. I know someone who has that so bad that he can't sleep because every time he falls asleep, that will happen just reflexively, that jerk, and it wakes him back up.
You should go to a doctor then, because there's anytime you have like something that's stopping you from being able to sleep, whether it's nightmares or like being jerked awake constantly, waking up throughout the night, those are all like sleep disorders. And so you should at least consult a doctor and say, I'm having trouble with sleeping, because it could be a medication you're taking, or maybe there's something that you need to balance. So, I mean, if anybody's struggling with anything, nightmares, anything like that, you should always just ask your medical doctor, because they'll, send you to somebody to help. Because why suffer? Dreaming should be a pleasant, fun, enjoyable experience where you have stories that you can share with others. And it should never be bad like that. So if it's persistent, if it's just during a stressful time, that's to be expected. Big move, job changes, divorces, whatever, you're going to have nightmares, you're going to have bad sleep. That's normal. But if it just goes on and there's really nothing that you can think of that should be causing such traumatic sleep experience, you should get help, because it's not good for you overall,
Yeah.
And your state of like health wise, things like that, this is all going to affect the way that you dream, correct? Like if you have if you're sick, for example, maybe you got the flu, maybe you're going through cancer, or so all these mental states will definitely affect how you dream, correct?
Yeah it will. And again, like if you are going through something, then you can ask the doctor for help, because there's probably medications they can give you that'll help, you have better sleep, because you're already struggling. You don't want to make it even worse by having the traumatic dreams.
Yeah, interesting. Now, do you know about psychedelic dreams? Let's say people that microdose. They use a hallucinogenic. Do you run across people that have these type of dreams?
Yeah, you mean where they microdose and they're awake and they're having the dream experience? I believe that when you microdose, or even like LSD and stuff, that is tapping into the same place we go to with our dreams. That's just my personal opinion. I think that's what happens, because the people who, even like there's something with a breathing thing where you breathe heavily, and it puts you into that same kind of space, and then you start to hallucinate and have dreams. I believe you're going to the same place. I don't think I know microdosing can have advantages for some things, but I don't think you should just be doing it just to have, not to tap into your subconscious and have like ideas and thoughts. I think it's better to try to, work with your dream and your journal and stuff like that. But I think it takes you to the same place. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. And Ronnie had a thing here. She said, what's up when you're having a lucid dream and you think I have to remember this and tell whoever, but then upon waking, we forget. What's up with that?
So you remember that you were supposed to tell somebody something, but you just don't remember what it was?
Yeah, like it was giving you a message and you needed to, but you, for whatever reason, you forgot.
You have some people only have like 3 seconds from the time you wake up. So you have to be speaking the dream. If you're afraid you're going to forget it, just start reciting the dream. Have a recorder and record it. Some people can go a couple of minutes. I can actually go and get my coffee and still record my dreams. But then if I wake up at 3:00 in the morning, because I'll wake up throughout the night and record each dream I have. So the one at 3:00 in the morning, I have to get up and record it. I do it on my phone because the one I have like at 5 is going to make me forget the one I had at 3. So if you're having multiple dreams, you're probably only going to remember the last dream you had. So if you're really into it, you really want to know, the second you wake up, you've got to start at least speaking it, because it'll then put it into your long-term memory, because now you're talking about it. But if you just like have it in your mind and you're I'm going to remember the first thing you think, like you think, oh, I want coffee, or oh, I got to go to the bathroom. You just gave your mind a new thought and it threw it out. That's why we forget.
Oh yeah, and that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. I it's like it kind of reminds me of like when you set your keys down someplace and you can't remember where they are. It's just, yeah, your mind it's very much yes.
Yeah.
Is that because you come out of delta and into alpha or beta, and when your brainwave state shifts, you sort of lose access? Is that the kind of defining thing, your brainwave state? And if we would sort of wake up and stay kind of hypnagogic and stay maybe in theta, bordering on delta, is there any way, to enhance dream recall by kind of maybe preventing yourself when you wake up from entering alpha and beta and kind of staying in the lower brainwave state? Does that make any sense at all? The brainwave state?
Yeah, it does. I haven't studied that much with dreams, except that you can like play the music or the sound in the background while you're sleeping. I've even found some online that go for like 10 hours. And so if you find that frequency that you want to be in and you play that throughout the night, that would be a good experiment to see if that would help you. Yeah. But for me, it's just, repetition. You will train yourself, your mind. Like sometimes I have set the intention not to dream because I can't forget it. And it's disturbing to me on that level because I'm too into it. So you can train yourself to remember, but I would say if you're into that, like find the frequency you want to use for dreaming. I found some online, and then see if that like changes your dreams, if it helps you remember. I'd be really interested to know.
Yeah.
But I do believe that they do something. Yeah. The frequencies.
And Ronnie just said, yes, that what she means by the dream, I will think to myself, I have to remember this to tell Todd, and then I forget.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to, the second you wake up, you do remember. Because like sometimes even like when you wake up, you'll like, I had a dream and then it's gone, because that like 1 second it was just gone. And it may have felt so important, and maybe it really wasn't. Because I've seen a couple of people, like they write down their dreams in the middle of the night, and when they read it in the morning, they're like, this is it's funny, or it doesn't really have any great meaning, So sometimes it could be that she thought it was so important, but maybe it, I don't know. I've woken up in dreams laughing my ass off, and then when I remember what I was saying, it was like it wasn't even funny. So sometimes we have like these weird things that go on.
Yeah, just recently, I don't know, a few days ago, in my dreams, I yelled out, and and I woke myself up, and I'm like, "What the heck am I?" And then felt embarrassed because
Yeah.
I fell asleep on the couch. I am yelling for whatever reason, thinking, "Oh my God, everybody's gonna hear me. They're gonna think I'm crazy."
Yeah, it's just like acting out. It's you're dreaming and you're acting out your dream. And that can happen, like you can move your arms. Like I've heard of people punching walls and stuff. And you're not supposed to be able to do that. So if you are somebody who I woke up when I was in my 20s, I was having a nightmare that I was being chased by this like creature that was making this horrendous noise and I'm running from it. And I woke up running. So as I'm running in my dream, I woke up running through my house. I'm running awake through my house. And that's only happened to me one time that I ever know of. But so I was acting out the dream or coming out of some other dimension being chased by a monster. I don't know. But, I mean, that can happen. But if it happens all the time, then that's another thing where you should talk to your doctor.
Yes, and that's a good thing because I had for quite some time, I was always waking up but punching the wall. You know, when you sleep, like where your headboard would be, I didn't have a headboard on there, and I was always punching the wall. And I don't know how long later, a few years later, I continued to do that, and I actually talked more in my sleep, and found out that I needed a CPAP machine. Well, there's a BiPAP.
Sleep apnea. Yeah.
Yeah, they said that I wasn't getting enough air.
Yeah.
And yes, so yes,
fighting to, yeah.
Yeah. So that's very interesting. And talking with you, it's really opening up a lot of different ways you look at sleep and dreams and things of that nature too.
Yeah, good.
Well, Dee, if someone wants to get a hold of you for dream interpretation, where do they gotta go?
My website is thedreamsinterpreter.com. And then that'll link you to, you can find my Facebook that way. And then also the Dream Interpretations. And then I have a YouTube channel. It's The Dreams Interpreter, where I have a podcast, the Haunted Hour podcast, where I do podcasts about paranormal. And then I do dream symbols and anything that it's called Everything Dream. So anything that I research, my dream experiments, it's all up on the YouTube channel that you can watch. So
excellent. And Jim, you have any follow-up questions?
Yeah, okay. I was wondering, what do you think about using like dream websites or dream interpretation books? I always felt like there was a sort of conflict between using a book, with sort of set definitions, symbol definitions and everything, and how that might sort of interfere with your own personal sort of interpretation of symbols. And like, what do you recommend people use books, or do you recommend that they stay away from books? Or, I mean, what's your thoughts on using dream interpretation books?
2 thoughts on it. One is that I recently was listening to another dream interpreter, and I wish I could remember her name, but I forgot. But she was saying that everybody should create their own dream dictionary. So as you have dreams, write down the symbol and what it meant to you, and you can actually create your own dream dictionary, which I thought was brilliant. And then also, there's nothing wrong with having the books or looking. I use dreammoods.com. Sometimes if I just kind of want to like see, like if I get a weird symbol and I'm like, I don't know, I mean, you basically look at what does it mean to you, but sometimes I'll go and I'll look. I do it for numerology because I don't have numerology memorized. I'll do it for colors. It's just, don't use it as like the only way and the only thing that it means. And so I like to say, write out your dream, say what you think it means, then look up the symbols after you've decided what they mean. Or maybe you're like, I don't know what this means to me. You know, like I've had a couple people, like, I'll say, what does this mean to you? And they say back what it is, but it doesn't give me any kind of like deep definition. So in those cases, sure, look at a book and maybe it'll inspire some thought. I also like using oracle cards. I have 2 sets of cards where they're images, and you look at the images in the cards, and it helps you recall your dream. And then you can kind of look through the book and see what it says. And it's just another tool to kind of like inspire thought, you know. But overall, it's always going to be you. But I don't see anything wrong with using any kind of a book or anything. Just don't only use that.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. And, you know, you have to have someone like you, Deedee, because you can look up anything, get the definition, but you need someone like you to interpret it.
Yeah, because it's more than that. You have to find out what the dream theme is. What are the symbols? What did they mean to this person? And then you try to see, how do the symbols fit together and how do they tell a story? If it's not telling a story, or if it seems scattered, then that's not it. It should very much, like, when you realize what it means, it should just be like, oh my God. Because I've done other people's dreams without talking to them. And when I go through it, I will actually be able to figure it out. Like I said, it's like being a detective and solving a mystery, and you'd be like, wow, you know. And that's why I always say, like, when you share your dreams with people, if somebody's really intuitive and understands dream interpretation, you're giving a lot of yourself away. So you should know what your dreams are about.
Yeah. And D Hoot here, he says, you do tarot pulls sometimes when you're interpreting dreams, do you not?
Yes. Yeah. So I do a dream interpretation. I'll tell you how I came up with the interpretation, because my thought is that I don't want someone to come to me. I mean, that'd be fine if they came to me with every dream, but I want people to like walk away from an interpretation, like having some knowledge that helps them interpret their next dream. Right. But I pull the tarot cards, just as like, it's almost like a, what else, you know, I'm pulling from the universe. What else does this person need to know? Or what do I need to know about this interpretation? And they always fit, and they're always like really eye-opening. So I always incorporate the cards too when I do them.
Yeah. And, you know, I can see where, like, me telling you about my dreams, but briefly, and not understanding, trying to pick your brain a little bit to see where to go. And as you said, you know, write it down as much as you can, try to figure out, you know, all the little details, and then you can go from there. Because dreams would be, you know, I would think some dreams would be very complicated.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, if you're struggling in life and you're trying to figure something out, there's a book. I can't think of it. I'll tell you what the book is, and you can post it. But it's a 20-day dream experiment, and you write down your dreams every day. But it goes through all these different things you can do. So if anybody's like super interested in interpreting their own dreams or working with their dreams, I highly recommend this book. I'm trying to think if I have one near me, but I'll send it to you. And it for me, it changed my life. I was one of these people who could never make a decision. And it's from a lifetime of making bad decisions, or the fear of thinking I'm making bad decisions, but maybe I'm just living life. Right. And when I did this 20-day dream experiment, I can make decisions. You ask me and I make a decision, and I don't have any like second guessing myself. I don't struggle. Should I choose this way or that way? I just know. And I don't even know what switch that flipped, but you can literally like do that. And so I feel like everybody really needs to focus more on their dreams. It's not nothing. It's something that's free. It's your mind trying to help you, because what does our subconscious want? It wants to survive. And if it sees our conscious self not doing well, it's going to send you these messages. Hey, let's get our shit together. And it'll help you, you know? So, I mean, it's, for me, I'm really passionate about, though. You could tell.
No, that's great. But how does somebody determine if their dream is just something they redone from that day, or if it's trying to tell you something for tomorrow or the future? How does one determine that?
Well, unfortunately, that's hard to know. I mean, I have dreams all the time that I think, could this be a future event, or is this just me working through stuff? The only way to do it is to see, does this apply to anything that's going on? It could just be emotions too. Like if you had a bad day and you're angry or whatever, it could just be your mind will work through each night, work through your emotions, and it'll give you these little scenarios to try to like if you're afraid of something, it'll throw little things at you, but then it'll throw something nice in there too, so that you like become afraid. It's almost like exercise where they do the, you for 40 seconds, you do hardcore exercise, and then we take a break for 20 seconds. And the dreaming will do that to you too. It'll bring you up, and then it'll be like, but it's fine. And so it's working through things for you. I mean, it's fascinating, all the stuff that our brain does overnight. So you have all these different types of dreams. The only way you're going to figure it out as an individual is to journal your dreams each night. And then you can label it. Oh, this was a prophetic dream. This was my emotions from my bad day. This was something that was more like a lucid dream. Like, you've got to take the time to kind of label it. And then once you do that, you'll know when you wake up, oh, that was this kind of dream, Yeah,
because that will give you, keeping the journal is what's going to help you
it's like your baseline.
Find the pattern, yes. And so that if you're having a lot of good dreams and then you start having intermittent bad dreams, then you'll be able to go back and look at those and try to find out where your headspace was.
Yeah, definitely. And then you got to look at your waking life too and be like, well, this whole month was great. And then all of a sudden these bad things were happening. Somebody new started at the workplace or something, and you thought that you were fine with it, but there was something about them that was bothering you, or you felt threatened by it. And so it's coming out in your dreams, and maybe consciously you didn't pick up on it. It could be stuff like that too.
Interesting. Yes. Jim, anything else?
Nothing right off the top of my head. Well, yeah, I did kind of want to ask you about this. Do you think that there's a problem with people's general perception of dreams having a predictive power? Being that, I mean, obviously, by far the majority of them, 99%, do not come true. But you have so many people that are disturbed by dreams sometimes because they feel like, does this mean that this is going to happen? Am I going to be in a car accident? Is my plane going to crash? I see this a lot, and I feel like there's a problem there, in people's general conception of dreams and this aspect of them having a predictive power, and how it leads to kind of irrational fears about stuff. And they forget about the fact that, by far the majority of them never come to pass. And so, it's unreasonable, to think that something is going to happen, on the basis of that dream.
Yeah. Well, like say you dream that somebody you love dies. Are you worried about them, in your waking life? Mm-hmm. Also, I said the other day on another podcast that if you dream that you're in a car accident and you're driving down the road and you see what you saw in that dream, and it's, obvious, then I would say pull over, because maybe you always have to think about what else is going on. I think that you can have, premonition or precognitive dreams, but I think usually they're not. But I mean, I always feel like, when in doubt, look into it. But if you dream that, somebody died in an airplane crash and they are going to be taking an airplane, then maybe you don't want them to leave, or maybe there is a problem. I don't know. I'd hate to say ignore it. I think you have to look within yourself. Do you feel like you should ignore it, or do you feel like you should say something about it? You know?
But if you're in fear all the time, if you're having a lot of bad dreams and stuff, and that's like a dominant thought pattern, the fear of this dream coming true, then you've probably gone too far.
And you're constantly in fight or flight mode, which is a part of your brain that's triggered, which is anxiety. And so if you're anxious to the point where even all your dreams are like that, you've got to go to a doctor, because they'll be able to help you with that. That's what that really is that you're always in fight or flight mode, and it's coming out in the dreams too.
Yeah, right. True.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting, Jim. The whole premonition thing to me is fascinating, but it does spark me back to like movies as well. Final Destination. I remember the one he was had this premonition of the plane crashing, and then it actually crashed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, what would happen if you say to yourself, man, I had this damn dream. It was so vivid that, someone T-boned me in my car. And I mean, what should somebody do? I mean, that is very scary. I mean, to think something like that could happen.
I go back to 9/11. There was people who had dreams that something bad was going to happen. There were people who had bad feelings. There were spouses that had dreams or had bad feelings. And these are the people who didn't go in that day, or they went in late that day, and they were right. So I think that, I mean, it goes both ways, because if it's constantly happening and you can't function in life because you're always afraid, then it's not going to work. But if you've got, I feel like you just know. Those people just knew. And there was no way that they should have known about it. But it was several people. Like if you Google that, there was several people who had stories where they either had premonitions, asleep, awake, they had a bad feeling. Somebody, their kid was sick, and just begged them not to go in. Just weird things like that. So I feel like there's that space where you just have to, sometimes you have to listen, because it could be a warning. But if it's every night, probably not. Unless you're a psychic and that's something that you do,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I
because
hope that answers that.
yes, no, that was perfect. I was just curious, because some people, I've heard stories that people have these massive, vivid memory, or not memories, but these premonitions, these dreams, and it really happens. And I think to myself, wow, how the heck does that happen?
Oh, it does. Yeah. That's even like in the different websites that I go to when I'm studying different subjects, and the group that I belong to, which is mostly psychiatrists and doctors. And that's something that happens. It really does happen. And where that information's coming from, I don't know. But I mean, people do have these dreams.
And D-Hoot here, he put, and this is good. I like this. What about when you dream about someone and they dreamt about you the same night, or maybe even the same time?
Yeah, that's happened to me and my husband. I had a dream. I don't smoke, but I had a dream. In the dream, I was smoking a cigarette and I was really enjoying it. It was great. And that was the only part of the dream I remembered. So I was telling him my dream in the morning, and he's all, "That's weird. I had a dream you were smoking too." So what are the odds that we both dreamt that I was smoking, And then my parents have had those mutual dreams. I've seen articles where so people do have mutual dreams. I don't know how common it is. And I always wonder, like when you're having dreams, saying you don't know anybody in the dream, it's all strangers, but are they other dreamers and they're dreaming about you at the same time, but you'll never know because you don't know each other.
That's
right?
fascinating to think about.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm not going to keep you much longer, but I could do this all night. What about dreaming faces? I can't remember who had put it in something in the comments, and they said that that you can't really dream faces unless it's someone you've seen. Is this kind of true? Like if I have a dream, and I'm seeing somebody, would I see a face? Would my brain make up a face because that's what we want? Or because you have no idea who it is, it would just be like a blank face?
Yeah, it was almost like usually you just don't, if you're talking to somebody, maybe you don't see their face. But they say that what it is that throughout our lives, we see so many faces. What could be on TV, on the internet, in person. I mean, we're seeing faces, millions of them, right? And then it also says that not only can you dream of those faces, but you can dream, your mind can take 2 different faces or 4 different faces and create a new face, but they're still from things you've seen. Now, I don't know if I agree with that or not, but I mean, it makes sense that our brain could do that. Every image that we're seeing is something that, supposedly we've seen somewhere, which is why I like to go to the AI model and I'll like say, like things that I've seen in my dreams and try to see what the AI, because now it's out there for real. My dream image is out there for real, you know?
Do you think that that's going to be, do you think the AI is going to take over with tarot readings, dream interpretation, or are we still going to need a real human to actually interpret what is
It's
going on?
already out there. You can get dream interpretations from AI and you can get tarot readings. The thing is that they work sort of, but you lose the humanity, and like there's nothing better than sitting with somebody, sharing your dream, seeing their reactions to your dream, discussing it. Same thing with tarot reading. Like it's a back and forth, which is something that AI just, it can't get excited about your dream, and it can't say that, oh, I had that dream too. So that's where it dies off for me, is that it's another tool that if you're stuck, you could use it, you know, but it's just going to pull from what it does is the AI pulls from all the dream dictionaries, everything that's on the internet, and it'll come up with the most probable interpretation, but it doesn't like go deeper, and it doesn't like pull a card for you. It doesn't ask you any questions, you know? So
Right.
I don't think it'll take over like anything. Unless it becomes more, you know, sentient, and I don't know, it still won't have experience. So it doesn't have the emotional, physical experience we do. So I don't think it could ever fully do it,
Right.
because it doesn't have the empathy, not real empathy.
Yeah, and just symbol interpretation in general is a real kind of, you would think, difficult to duplicate process, you know, like the what goes on when we, you know, see a symbol and derive an interpretation from it. That seems like something more metaphysical, you know, and importantly metaphysical, you know, that couldn't be reproduced by a machine. Yeah.
Right. I agree.
Mhm.
Wow.
Mm.
You know, I learned I learned so much, but yet I did not learn so much. There's so much into dream interpretation and what you dream and how to interpret it. It is just, it's mind blowing. And I thank you, Deedee, so much for coming on the show and letting us pick your brain, because we went like all over from, you know, ghosts to UFOs. I mean, we was really giving you a tug of war there.
Yeah, it was fun.
But I mean, it's so very interesting, and you could talk for hours and hours about this. So
yeah, and there's still so much more. Yeah.
yeah. So I thank you so much for, you know, this tapping into this little bit of information, because there is a lot of it to grasp. So I thank you so very much.
Thank you for having me on.
Yes, absolutely. Jim, thank you very much for being here and talking with us. And I hope everybody that joined in to watch and join in the discussion, thank you very much. And I hope you join us for another episode of Paranomaly Podcast. Thank you, everybody. Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in with us tonight, and we hope you enjoyed this episode. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and follow to receive notifications when new content from Paranomaly Podcast is made available. If you believe you have something paranormal happening in your home or business, or you believe you may have witnessed a UFO, a UAP, please send us your stories, your photos, videos, questions, suggestions, or comments to paranormalypodcast@gmail.com. You can also visit us at paranomalypodcast.com for more content and information, including all our social media links. Thank you again for watching or listening, and we hope to see you on the next episode, Paranomaly. Thanks, everyone.